the point here is that I will show you a small selection of projects we're working on, and then at the end, I put together a few slides to see how this is really related to some of the innovation and the things we are seeing, some of the mechanism of innovation, and some of the things we are observing on the MIT campus. So I'll show you another project. It's on show at the Design Museum in Barcelona. There's plenty of people with digital cameras. We all take digital pictures. And a lot of these digital pictures actually end up on Flickr, platform for sharing the pictures. And if you take the data from Flickr and you actually analyze it, you can understand interesting things about what people like, where they take pictures, how that is distributed geographically. So in this case, we started in the city of Florence, one of our partner cities. And, for instance, you can see actually all of Tuscany, and you see where people take pictures in Tuscany. So that Florence is that bright spot over there. It's a heat map, so the brightest the color, the more people you have there. And then you can look in downtown Florence where people sort of go and take pictures, and also inside the Duomo, next to the Duomo where that happens. And you can actually look at, if you do a little script and you look at timestamps, you can actually look at path. So look at this, for instance. Look at the difference between Italians and Americans, the way they move in Tuscany. So you got Americans is a little bit like an elephant's path. You got these main cities, and it's normal because if you're only in Italy for 7 days, then you will go to the main cities there. Well, look at the difference with Italians who have been perhaps to Tuscany many times, and they try to really discover something that's outside the beaten path. And actually, there's the exhibition in Barcelona. There's a lot of analysis. There's some image processing. You can actually look at the color of the picture and see how the landscape is becoming in summer in Spain, the draft, how it's expanding. So how is it more green or less green in different times of the year. And one of the students is actually doing some interesting research trying to find possible correlations between the geography of Britons and parties in Barcelona, in the city of Barcelona, by looking at the pictures and the sort of tags related to the pictures. I'll show another project that's more onto creating interactive public spaces. And this started with the city of Zaragoza. The mayor came to us a few years ago when they had just won the World Expo that was last year. And the theme of the expo was water. And his point was, how can we use water, the theme of the expo, and digital technology to create more engaging public spaces? And what he called at the time, he wanted to do a project called Digital Mile. They had put the railway underground. They have 1 mile of prime land in the center of the city. And he wanted to use it to try to see what type of spaces for public spaces and spaces for creativity could be built into the city. And the initial idea that some students, this was a class that Bill Mitchell, Dennis Frenchman, myself were teaching at MIT, and some of the students came out with this idea, water, and you use the digital. Imagine you have a pipe, and you have many, many tabs, solenoid tabs on the top. And the open and close, you can create like pixels made of water. So you can create this type of surface that becomes like a display made of water, but also an interactive surface. You approach it, it will open, let you in, let you through. And so the mayor liked it very much, and he told us, we got the commission to sort of design a space at the entrance of the expo called Digital Water Pavilion. On the way, really, that's the gateway to the expo. You see, you can sort of cut the water. Imagine it's like an inkjet printer, a water jet printer. And the building becomes interactive. When you approach it, it will open, let you in. No doors. Everything is made of water. The roof is also covered with water. That's a bridge by Zaha Hadid at the entrance. If there's wind, you can actually minimize splashing by lowering the roof. And when you decide to close the building, the pavilion, you can actually have the architecture disappear. So the whole thing will...
But you did not realize this, right?
Actually, we did. Well, if you had asked me 1 year ago, I would have said we wouldn't...
Because I was in Zaragoza, I didn't see that.
I'll show you. It is there, yeah?
You invented this flowing down? Because I saw
the water flow.
in China, same thing.
Well, the water flowing, there's a number of people who started doing it. So, and actually it's becoming quite popular. But we started 3 years ago, developed our own thing. But it started, for instance, now I saw it in Tehran 2 days ago. Like they built supposedly the largest water. But the thing is that it's different technology behind, and it's also is usually just a screen. While the idea here is how can you do an architecture, a full 3D space that becomes interactive. For the thing, if you had asked me a year ago if this would be built, I would have said no, even with the roof and so on. But they actually, like it often happens in Spain, if, you know, Spain is, it's very nice to work in Spain. The fact that people will jump on something and make it happen. So it was finished 80% by the Expo, and it will be launched officially this spring in a couple of months when they reopen. So I'll show you the first pictures. We put together a team, had to put together the design very fast. This was before the opening, just one of the guys from MIT testing the system. This was a guy looking a bit puzzled in front of the thing. This is what happens when you walk down towards the Expo. That's what is called the Expo. This is called the Puerta Sur. Puerta Sur is the south end gateway to the Expo from the railway station. This was actually testing projections on the water surface. And this was myself trying not to get wet, getting into the building. I'll tell you a funny story about how things usually happen then in a different way from what we anticipate. So the whole thing was designed in order that you approach the building, there's no doors, but there's sensors. And those sensors will detect people and people approaching, and then the water will open and close and let you in. But one day, all the sensors stopped working. And you know, it might be probably they were running Microsoft Windows, and so it crashed. And so that happened. But that day, actually, it was even more fun to be in the building. And that night, there were like 1,000 kids from all of Zaragoza, because the game then became something else. Became not having a building that responds to you and lets you in, but having holes in the water and having to go through the holes without getting wet. So it was engaging with the building in a different way, more as a kid, as a game, as a play. You had to go through. And we thought it was funny, the fact that you think about an interaction, you try to design everything, and then reality will always surprise you. I'll show very briefly, before wrapping up, 2 projects we are doing now. One is in Copenhagen, one is in New York. In Copenhagen, we have a partnership with the mayor. It's one of our partner cities. And we're working for the UN 2009 Summit on Climate Change. You're probably familiar. It will happen at the end of this year. And that's where the Kyoto Protocol will be rewritten. And so what we are doing here, based on the mayor's input, is how can we use pervasive computing, sort of ubiquitous computing, in order to make the city more sustainable. The interesting thing in Copenhagen is that many people ride a bike. It's really nice. 35% of all trips every day are by bicycle. Is there anybody from Denmark or Copenhagen here? Oh, wonderful, yeah. So the 35% of all trips every day are done by bike. And so what we're working on is how can we incorporate, and actually the other thing I should mention is that Copenhagen was sort of the city that invented the sort of city bike concept that's now very popular in Paris, in Barcelona, is being copied everywhere. Copenhagen was probably the first city that started it. It's the one on the left, and you see it to the right, some of the other cities that are now deploying this. And what we are doing there, we are developing with another group at MIT that's more on the mechanical engineering side, a kind of what we call a green wheel. That's really just a wheel that you can put into your bike, and when you brake, it will harvest the energy from the braking, a little bit like those hybrid cars, the Toyota Prius. So you brake and you harvest the energy. And then with this, you can do a few things. Well, first, you can actually reuse the energy for when you need it, so when extra power is needed. You can have an intelligent locking mechanism. You can monitor air quality, so you see your exposure